A confusing development, it says. Yeah, fair. After putting together the tree of potential new root trees, Clark and Sam appeared at your door, together. According to Clark, Ruby Spratt, the company's lawyer, was caught throwing away the DNA samples from Bonnie Hudson. They were intended to be used to test new potential root trees. Something doesn't sit right with Sam, and the two of them ask for your help. They're hoping that with your evidence and understanding of the family tree, you could verify which people are dotted in the dotted boxes are almost certainly legitimately root trees, very unlikely to be root trees, and which of them are too ambiguous to make a decision one way or the other. Oh, fuck. Additionally, with the suspicion of Ruby Spratt, it's possible that some of her behaviors in the past have also been cast into doubt. A new section of the tree has been added for you to fill in. Oh, Anonymom. Anonymom is the one of two DNA bits? I think there's been two DNA bits, right? It was Anonymom and it was 5Ps. Because 5Ps' whole thing is that he got confirmed to be a root tree after everyone says that he wasn't. But then an Anonymom who had a similar narrative was proved to not be a root tree, both based on DNA. So both of them are called into question. This is probably an Anonymom, but I need to figure out what her name is and then find out who the kid is. Anonymom, yeah, it's also connected to Guy. Okay, I get what's going on there, but these things upset me. How the fuck? There's no way I'm getting this right. There's no way I'm getting this right, and there's no way that it's just, there's no way, yeah. It was one thing to figure out the name of the gay guy, and that was basically it, actually. Last time, I have to guess what state each of these people are in across the entire family tree. Like 10 different people or something like that? That's insane. There's no way. There's no way. I guess these people are excluded because if that person's a root tree, then they're all root tree. If they're not a root tree, then none of them are root trees. Here's my thing. And it's rough. It's stressful because I'm doing a Let's Play, so I'm like, there's such a pressure to do it right and win because everyone's watching. My struggle here is that this is an investigative thing. So, like, you never know when you're done. You never know when you found everything, let alone if you're thinking about the stuff you found correctly. So that's really stressful. It's like here you're working towards the idea of like, well, this woman's name has to exist, her job has to exist, her photo has to exist, because that's what the game's asking for. That information must exist somewhere, let's find it. What broke me for a moment was that the game basically was like, yo, just now they said there's 3 options, which is the worst thing I want to hear. I lost the document. Here. People who are, like, basically, people who are definitely root trees and people who are definitely not root trees, although they say most likely or unlikely. Those two, okay, sure. That makes a kind of sense. I gotta go to the slideshow. This thing renders weird. Okay. That part makes sense. But then there's a question mark is an answer? Oh, fuck. Because if the only options were yes and no, which is unrealistic in real life, but, you know, it's a video game. If the only options were yes and no, then that tells me that I can find evidence that pretty definitively points one way or the other, and I can confidently say each one is or isn't a root tree. The fact that some of them apparently are going to end up being question marks, that's terrifying. That means every single one of them could be a question mark, and any question mark I have could just be me failing to find the actual definitive evidence. All of them? You just don't know when you're done? Ever? Fuck. I'm fucked. I'm so fucked. If I never... this entire subgenre of games like Golden Idol and Return of the Obra Dinn and so on, and even the game so far that I've been playing, is pretty much founded on the idea that the evidence you're finding points you to this specific goal. And it is an answer. You will put an answer there. So that's the trust fall you kind of engage in when you do the investigation, is that you know you'll find something. Knowing that I might just not find anything across several of these people is terrifying. So I'm about to whiff this so hard, because how the fuck? Oh god. But let's focus on this part. This is the part that still works the way things used to work, even this part's also here to make me upset and scared. Okay, so I'm assuming this is about Anonymom. Let's go ahead and just put her on the bottom. Because that's where we are now. We'll ignore the freaking guy's not dead theory. I think I googled those things already. Yeah, guy's not dead. That printed something out. Okay, fine. Okay, so Anonymom. What do we know? Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree. So we need to find out who that is, because that's the daughter. That tells us it's a daughter. I'm gonna name her Jane Doe real quick. Jane's not an option. Never mind. All right. I was just gonna placeholder the name, but that's not really an option. Okay, sure. All right. Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman, who the press began to refer as Anonymom, appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised. She claimed that an affair with Roottree led to the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Roottree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Roottree, and therefore entitled to a share of the Clansed Trust. Nobody knew it at the time, but this would turn out to be the last chapter of the Rootreemania saga. The DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, proved that her daughter was not a Roottree. Except we know that we now know that Spratt is tampering with the evidence, so that's out the window. She appeared in the shadows with a disguised voice and promoted an article about herself in News Time. Is Anonymom part? Is this search? Is News Time even in here? Extremely similar to 5P's story, her accusation even included many of the same details as his mother's story. This included her job, secretary, and the time period, late 70s. Whose face is left? You. So it could be you. It might even be likely, given that nobody else... The only face that appears twice is Susan Ford, which I did wonder if that was Susan Ford. They kind of look like a different ethnicity, but it's hard to be sure. Because it's a completely different angle to see a person at, and a different expression, and like one of them's a blurry background photo, and one of them's the corner of someone's face, and they're drawn by artists, so they're not even fucking photos of a real person. Even if they might be draw-overs, for all I know. I also find it interesting because she shows up as a supposed secretary and is specifically explained to also be somebody where the only person that witnessed them, that mentions them, didn't know who she was either. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty Anonymom to me. Let's see. I should probably just read the entire article again from scratch. Anonymom was the second high-profile case after Felix Fellows of a potential new Roottree being added to the Clansed Trust. Instead of claiming herself a Roottree, however, she claimed that she'd slept with Guy Hudson and their daughter was a Roottree. The accusation came during the height of Rootreemania and began with a brief TV interview. She appeared in the shadows with a disguised voice and promoted an article about herself in News Time. Have I looked at that already? Surely I did, right? An anonymous woman appeared on the cover of News Time holding a picture. Oh, that's the fucking magazine. Picture of daughter Jane Doe Roottree. First and only mention of the phrase Anonymom in News Time came the week after, when they issued an apology for featuring her in the first place, because they didn't actually coin the term. Summary of the initial cover article has been added to your evidence. Okay. Well, then you guys probably have gossip about her, right? Tree is not afraid to expose details other publications would avoid. Shortly after the announcement that Jane Doe Roottree was not a Roottree, Tree exposed personal details about the story of Anonymom under the headline Anonymom the Anonicon. What? Anona icon? Are they going for... What are they going for that? They said... Oh, Anonicon, like she's a con woman. They said Anonymom worked as a manager at a department store in North Carolina, and her daughter's name was Courtney-May. They also said the woman that vouched for her famous cover story, they didn't identify news time, perhaps to avoid being sued, is named Corrine S., and that she has filed for bankruptcy. The article speculates that Anonymom and Corrine were not together, and even speculates that they might have been lovers. That's probably not true. That's them being insane. Let's see. I'm running DNA evidence that Anonymom is a fraud should be thrown out because of Spratt's behavior. 5Ps is also thrown into question. Gotta add this bit. I don't think I've ever seen this article before because I don't remember the lovers bit. Gay stuff does tend to be remembered. Also might be listed up here. Yeah, I never looked at Tree. Okay. Tree is not a credible publication. Their information wasn't particularly actionable. Very few people seem to notice or care. which is a good sign for me in an investigation where I'm supposed to unpack the stuff that people don't notice. That should be helpful. Alright, so... Courtney-May. We don't know Anonymom's last name, but that should be the daughter's name. I have no photos that could be the daughter. I don't think the daughter would ever work for him, so it's not gonna be that. Courtney-May, nothing relevant. Nothing relevant for Courtney-May. Well, we have a name, and now I can look into Corrine S. Okay. Where's the article? What is Corrine's name? Shouldn't she just be credited in here? In the Roottree. And almost knocked over my water. Anonymous woman appeared on the cover of News Time shortly after 5Ps was confirmed to be a member of the Roottree family. In an homage to the previous cover, she holds up a photo of her daughter. Unlike 5Ps, she wished to remain anonymous, and both photos were obscured. Affair with Guy Hudson while she was working in a secretary. Yeah, I tried to track down who she was with these two people. Or these maybe 4 secretaries. She says that she and the other one were both underqualified as neither had a typewriter experience. According to other staff members interviewed, Guy had his own requirements for hiring women. Lavish parties, confronted Guy when she found out she was pregnant. Guy didn't seem fazed and came to an arrangement. Hush money. She never worked at the Roottree company at the same time as 5P's mother, Joanna. Ooh. Did I account for that? Did I account for that when I was trying to narrow it down before? Joanna Robertson. Or Joanna Fellows. Joanna Robertson became Joanna Fellows. Joanna Fellows no longer works is employed by Roottree. So only people hired after this point can count. Let's see if I wrote about that here. I think I hadn't read that. I wrote Zach's secretaries were Juliet McCullen, Joanna Robertson, Doris Mays, and Beth Knox. Zach's secretaries. Right, because those are the people that were there first. He was, and they were specifically hired as one of Guy's secretaries when many of Zach's secretaries were gone, which is a horrifyingly vague word to use. You really want to hear that they're all gone or something, or something like that, or half of them are gone. Not that they would know the number like that, because they don't have the hiring records. So Linda Lewis and Angela Ingram were hired after all of Zach's secretaries were gone, which include Joanna being gone. But Anonymom stopped getting money from Guy when Guy died, so she must have been hired sooner. Because like, how's the money dry up if the secretaries were fired when he died? She had time to move and live for some amount of time off of the money, and had a house in a different state. So they must have been hired sooner, I said. So Lisa Lewis or Valerie Ewing. So the question is, when were those two people hired? So Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing were hired. And that was like, is this one page after? Pharaoh no longer listed. Okay, so that fits still. So it's still likely Lisa Lewis or Valerie Ewing. Ewing? Can't highlight your own text, as in like you can't like select it to copy without going into edit mode. Just like updating that for my own purposes, so I can keep track of it. Based on previous secretary logic, Anonymom might be Lisa Lewis or Valerie Ewing, the other being her witness, because somebody vouched for her in one of the articles. She and another woman were hired at the same time during a transition period where many other secretaries that had worked under Zach Morton were already gone. Anonymom's affair does not appear in your updated tree. Did I finish the article I was looking at? Not really. Alright, that's the news time article. Let's see. Referred to her daughter as Jane Doe Roottree. He did not pick Anonymom's name. Sam Madsen publicly supported Anonymom due to some parts of the story she found particularly credible. With the momentum from Sam's endorsement, Anonymom went on Media Blitz. Unfortunately, this backfired. As more details came out, she became skeptical. People became skeptical of her story because of the extreme similarities to Five Pieces. Her accusation even included many of the same details as his mother's story, including her job secretary and late 70s time period. But that's because he fucking did that to a billion secretaries. After fumbling the five-piece story so publicly, the Rootrees were more prepared to handle all clans of trust-related case. Within a week, the DNA test proved that Anonymom's daughter could not be related to the Rootrees. This was announced at a joint press conference with lawyers representing both Anonymom and the Rootrees. Each party ensured their respective clients provided accurate samples. No, you didn't. Immediately after the negative results were released, many of those who had already been skeptical felt vindicated. Others who had built up hope that history could repeat itself after 5Ps felt duped. Many people suspected the whole affair had been a hoax to gain fame and money. Many demanded that Anonymom be held accountable, and some even began to attempt to track down her true identity. That could be helpful. Conspiracy people. I'm trying to do it right now. The Roottree company felt pressured to put out a second statement to try to curb some of the backlash, even going so far as to say, though it is scientifically proven that Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, this doesn't mean that her mother and Guy Hudson were not involved in an affair. She had every right to make her claim, as it has been verified that her stories about Guy Hudson were not exaggerations. Please leave her family alone. Like, we know that they slept together. That part did happen. We just don't. They just claimed they were just dying on the hill that it specifically wasn't a real pregnancy from that source specifically, but now it's fake DNA evidence. The question is whether they got a real DNA test and actually got results, or if she tampered with the. It sounds like she was tampering with the evidence. She was tampering with the samples and doing the test wrong on purpose. Because they caught her being somebody that should be knowledgeable about this stuff, but instead was mysteriously acting dumb about something, seemingly hoping that they wouldn't know that she was wrong about it, so that she can get away with doing it wrong on purpose. So it seems that the test never happened. Many people claim this high-profile anticlimax and public backlash was the beginning of the end for Roottreemania, since much of the fun was shared fascination about the secret Roottrees. Others think that, like any fad, it just ran its course naturally. Regardless, this was the final notable event related to the release of 6 pieces, and things soon went back to normal, even though it was only a month ago. This is them saying that she's not in the updated tree because she doesn't count. But now we know that she was behind the envelope the whole time. They pulled this trick twice. It's like watching an H-Bomber Guy video and being like, what's the green screen trick gonna be? Ooh. I already know how the next one goes. I'm on his Patreon, so I know I know how the Adobe videos trick goes. I won't say anything, but I'm just saying I already know. The next trick would be for him to pull a fake twist in the Patreon version of the video, and then then committing to a new twist in the actual video. That'd be so stupid. No, and some people don't know what I'm talking about at all. So let's move on. How the fuck though? Okay, what's her name? Beatrice Watts, Corrine Schwartz, Lisa Lewis, Valerie Ewing. Wait. Oh, Linda Lewis and Angela Ingram. Wow. Yeah, I remember that throwing me off earlier too. I don't think we've actually looked into these people at all yet, but hiring a Linda Lewis and a Lisa Lewis on back-to-back years has got to be really frustrating. Even just as co-workers, you're like, do we have to have these names? This is so frustrating. First of all, Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing were together. Okay. Making sure I actually even use the right name. Yeah, Linda Lewis. Okay, I kept Linda and Lisa straight. Oh, I got really scared for a second there that I might have just really fucked up. Okay. Wait. Oh, shit. Corrine Schwartz. That's the fucking person, right? Or coincidence. Yeah, she did news. Okay. One of the other secretaries, this is what a tiny world. One of the other secretaries is the news article person. What's it called? News Time. Nothing related to your investigation from Corrine Schwartz, even though she's the one that, whatever. Corrine Schwartz comes up in a few articles from local news stations in Pennsylvania. Some of the people attempting to track down Anonymom were harassing her. She recently had to take a leave of absence because people showed up in a car dealership where she works. She's begging people to stop the accusation so that she can get back to her normal life. In every article you found, the journalists involved have independently verified she is not Anonymom. She is not Anonymom. What? Oh, I misread something. Hang on a minute. Oh, the woman that... God, I'm stupid. I knew that was what we were looking for as information goes too. God damn it. Corrine S. It's not a coincidence that she was a secretary. She's the one that specifically vouched for her story, as in like she was the other secretary that worked alongside her. My dumbass was like, she's the woman that like did the interview and article and so on. Like she was the author of the interview, and therefore her credibility was destroyed. I just straight up just blanked on vouched for her famous story when I was literally looking for, okay, I have 2 women and one of them's Anonymom, the other one vouched for her story, basically. Like, I was basically using the same terminology and got it backwards. Okay. So I might be wrong about some stuff. Let's see. Beatrice Watts. Fuck my previous secretary, math. Lamau. Corrine Schwartz is Anonymom's co-worker. So Anonymom is probably Beatrice Schwartz. Beatrice Watts. See, Jesus fucking Christ. I literally wrote Schwartz again in the same fucking statement where I just said that I'm so bad with names. I am so hilariously bad with names. If I've ever met you before and then I don't seem, and then I'm like, the next time I meet you, I'm like referring to you in non-name ways through creative grammar, it's because I don't know your name, because I literally don't have object permanence on this shit. I need to like know someone for a while before their name sticks. Like not unreasonably long, but like, you know, in the spectrum of people that have photographic memory for the shit to people who don't have any object permanence and just need to like, just will not remember someone's name until they've like filed them in as being one of their friends. I just straight up, that's how I am with names. Made worse by the fact that most of my friends in the last 5 years are furries, so I just still don't know their names. And I'll hear it like once because I need it for like hotel stuff at one point, and I'll immediately drop right back out of my brain, or I'll see it on PayPal, and I'm like, nope, don't remember. All right, Beatrice Watts. It's probably an Anonymom. Beatrice, like she's a paint color. Beatrice Watts. Courtney-May Watts. This might not be safe, but it could be the case. Specifically, she doesn't have a spouse, which means I don't have to worry about somebody else's name. So she's just gonna still have the same name she had at work. Nothing here, but what about, let's see, news time, Pickle Tree, fuck, okay. Beatrice Watts. If that didn't bring anything up, I could still try Courtney-May Watts, just see if she's famous for any other reason. Out in Pickle Tree. Out in news time. Spider search. Ooh! Oh, she got married. Unobscured Beatrice. What a... Well, I guess somebody has a copy of the original cover then. Courtney-May has a simple website with black text on a white background and a few images. From the view counter, you can tell you're one of the only a few hundred people who has visited it. She's not shy about claiming that she is Jane Doe Roottree. Why couldn't I just get her from Googling Jane Doe Roottree then? Did I ever do that? To be fair, did I ever do that? What comes up? It's just this page again. Okay. Admittedly, it probably can't. Roottreemania was so big that it's probably almost like a filibuster or whatever. It's not the right way to put it. It would have been so loud with so many results. That's the opposite problem. What we had at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, and the original premise of this game was that it was pre-internet. So a lot of these people don't have any record, and then a lot of these people are just not famous at all. And just wouldn't be noteworthy in any way, so they're not going to be on the internet anyway, because this is pre-social media. I don't think MySpace even existed in 1999. Did LiveJournal exist? Maybe? So people being searchable wasn't really a thing, especially since people used usernames. Before social media, everyone used anonymous names to begin with, and didn't likely call themselves their literal name. But this is so famous that it probably is like completely unhelpful to look up stuff like Jane Doe Roottree because a million people wrote about it somewhere on the internet. Let's see. She's not shy about claiming she's Jane Doe Roottree. As proof, she has posted an unobscured cover from the time she was featured in Newstime, as well as a different picture of herself that appears to be a wedding photo. Website seems to be created in defense of her mother, who has been the target of public scrutiny. Pico Tree, y'all are slacking. I thought this is your job to go after, to find shit like this. Your whole job is to uncover stuff like this, and this person's like actively just broadcasting the fact that they are Jane Doe Roottree to anyone. Surely somebody in the few hundred people who visit this website may have noticed at some point. Under the headline, The True Story of Jane Doe Roottree, courtesy of Courtney-May Newton, formerly Watts. So her, yeah, so Courtney-May Watts is still her name for our purposes. But I guess she is married. Oh, there we go. So this person's named Newton. It finally came up again. Remember when I thought that Apple person was... I thought the Apple thing was Newton? I'm still mad about that. That person should have been named Newton because of the Apple reference. The actual truth is way dumber. Courtney-May writes, everyone has everything wrong. My mom approached the Rootrees before 5Ps was ever on the cover of Newstime. Hello? Nobody at the Roottree company took us seriously. They only listened to us after we appeared on TV and in the magazines. It's exactly what I was talking about before, where the people in power in these situations will just ignore you because that's what's convenient for them. And so you always have to like try to figure out how to make a big stink on social media once it exists, or get in the news or something and become an unignorable problem. And then people are like, oh, I sure wish they weren't so unprofessional and made such a big stink about this. We could have settled this privately. But every time someone says that, the person probably did try to reach out to them specifically, and they were just ignored, and they had to make a huge stink so they couldn't be ignored anymore. It happens every time. The site has a scanned letter from the Ruby legal group to Courtney-May's mother, Beatrice. In very polite legal terms, it seems to accuse her of exploiting her name and orders her to leave the Rootrees alone. It's dated from a few weeks before the 5Ps article appeared in Newstime and seems legitimate. Yeah. I already have this quote, so I can just take that for being true still. I don't have to keep highlighting more of this stuff. So this proves that they put their stories out first. Okay. I'm going to do a logical leap here about how narratives work in fiction. The fact that Ruby is botching DNA results. I'm gonna go back to H-Bomber Guy again here. Remember the plagiarism video? Remember how Harlan Ellison proposed an idea for a sci-fi TV show about like basically like a RoboCop, and then got rejected, and then went to a different news studio. A different TV studio where apparently the same guy had changed jobs and was there now and got rejected again. And then that same guy made a show about that exact premise. And then Harlan Ellison sued for plagiarism and won because that person specifically shut down that person's idea and then used their idea to profit themselves. So, based on just how narratives work, this is me cheating a little bit by just thinking about fiction. I'm guessing that Ruby Legal here, Ruby Sprat, got this narrative from Anonymom, quietly shut it down and tried to stop them from moving forward with the narrative. And then, knowing that nobody had heard this narrative yet, because this is pre-social media when people didn't have a voice and couldn't get a platform for this stuff, so if you ignore them, you have time, immediately fabricated 5Ps with the exact same narrative, which is why the two of them have the exact same backstory, except to have different parents when you investigate them. And so I think she propped up 5Ps to be a different version of the same story, which would then do two things. It would invalidate Anonymom's story by the time she did go public, which I think is what Ruby Sprat anticipated happening, is that at some point the story's going to get out. so she can preempt it by invalidating it, making it feel, there's a better word for this, I'm blanking on it, but like making it feel illegitimate by making it seem like a copycat, by just getting the story out first elsewhere, because she has the power and the time to do that. But also, if 5Ps is a fraud, then Ruby is probably working an avenue to profit off of 5Ps. And that I think that if Ruby gets 5Ps to illegitimately join in, get in on the Clancid Trust, then I think that they probably cut a deal where Ruby also gets in on the Clancid Trust. And that, I don't mean like directly, I mean like she probably worked a deal with 5Ps to like split the profits of their con. I think that that's where this is going, because I've read a book before. Let's see. He accused her of exploiting the name and says to leave them alone. It's just so suspicious that immediately afterwards the same narrative happened and then was proven correct. Courtney-May also discusses her mother's magazine feature in more detail. You know how difficult it was to convince anyone to tell our story? Mom didn't want to show her face because everyone in the media we approached assumed she was lying, because her story was just like 5P's. But my mom's story was first. My mom was advised by Ryan and Cork to tell News Time that seeing 5Ps in the cover was what inspired her to go public. Yeah. Was advised by Ryan and Cork to tell News Time that seeing 5Ps in the cover was inspired to go public. That's the only way News Time would agree to it and help her get on TV, but it's not true. Our story was first. I guess they don't know what happened. But you would think that with 5Ps having such a suspiciously similar story, which, to be fair, Guy Hudson did just do the same thing over and over again, so all the stories are actually similar. There's so many of them are secretaries, and so many of them are in the same time period. He was just like that. That's what systematic power abuse is, and sexual exploitation. That's Harvey Weinstein. So sorry if the story is repetitive, guys. The fact that there's nothing more 90s than being like, these sexual exploitation stories are too repetitive. We don't care anymore. If anything, the idea that anyone even would care about the sexual exploitation in the 90s is kind of a stretch. I guess they don't care, actually. Now that I think about it, no one actually cares that these women are being exploited. They only care that people might be secret Roottrees. They're not giving a shit about Monica Lewinsky in this situation. Like, the fact that there's somebody in a power dynamic that's being exploited by a powerful man did not give a fuck. No one ever gave a fuck in the 90s. It was really fucked up. It was actually wild. Like, there were so many stories like this, including Monica Lewinsky, where people would just, like, make fun of the sexual assault victim, or whatever you want to call the exact scenario. They would make fun of them on daytime, on like late night television shows and so on like that for years. Like, these people were just running gags for an eternity because women being exploited was not taken seriously at all, and they were just framed as sluts and shamed more than the man in the first place, who was the one being a fucking sex pest in the first place. And that's the most realistic part of this game, is that no one actually cares about the dynamic of like this guy fucking with all of his secretaries and pressuring them. Like, you can see it in moments like this, like with like her reaction to what's her name again? The fucking Sisley. You can tell that like Sisley's reaction, like that poor little thing, like just knowing that like fucked up things are happening here. Like, the women can tell that this is fucked up, but the news doesn't care. The pop cultural reaction doesn't care. They're just enraptured with the idea of there being a secret, of there being secret Rootrees. But like, even in the public narrative, the fact that Guy Hudson was sleeping with the secretaries is known. the fact that there's like a Me Too-ish element of there being like, oh no, another secretary, Guy Hudson was such a sex fiend, instead led to people being bored and disillusioned with the entire narrative, like, she's faking because she has a similar story, is really gross. That's so upsetting. Jesus Christ. Oh. But yeah, if they had known, if anything, it would have been, God, I've kind of talked myself out of the thing I was going to say, honestly. Because I was like, yeah, the fact that they have such similar stories, you would think that they would, if anything, would accuse them of fabricating their story or even using their story because they had already talked to somebody. Like, knowing what I know, that would have been useful for them to have said in the first place on News Time, and it would have helped their entire thing to accuse 5Ps of faking. But one, because of all the stuff I just said, it's actually, it would be pretty fucked up to call into question a fellow survivor's story when, for all you know, they just did that multiple times, and we know he did. But also, there was a literal DNA test, which is supposed to be objective proof, so there's not much to be benefit from. You can't benefit much from questioning 5P's mess, because he's supposedly has been objectively proven to be an heir. Which is unfortunately what's called in question, because Spratt is not an ally, as it turns out. Courtney's defense continues, but much of it seems repetitive and useless. Towards the end of her page, she discusses the DNA test and defends her mother's character. My mom is amazing. She's the nicest woman in the world. She has diabetes and works at a department store, but still managed to help pay for my apartment in the big city so I could stay with my high school sweetheart. I got a degree in nursing, so I learned about DNA in college, but I'm beginning to think it's all a lie. Mom is 100% confident that there's nobody else who could be a father. Either they did the test wrong or DNA is complete BS. She is not a liar. I forget, isn't this like during the time where DNA tests just got started, so we're just now learning about them and so on? DNA tests have been a huge boon for getting so many people off of death row, which is one of the reasons why I don't trust the legal system in general, and also specifically think that the death penalty is immoral, because not only is it fucked up as a concept to just execute people as opposed to the idea of rehabilitation. Like, I get that there's some crimes that are so deeply fucked up that a person does seem irredeemable, but the fact that so many people on death row have been exonerated by DNA evidence is like, okay, nope, the system doesn't work. This very exhaustive, complicated system that takes 500 years to accomplish anything, it doesn't actually have a consistent output for justice. The fact that so many people have been exonerated by DNA evidence tells me that no. We cannot trust the results of this system with any degree of true certainty when you're going to claim that the most guilty people ever were innocent. That's fucking terrifying. So it's such a definitive and irreversible thing to execute someone that I'm like, no, we don't have that level of truth and justice. That is an unachievable goal as far as I can tell, and this system is not good at achieving it provably. So we can't be doing state executions of anyone at all, regardless of your opinions of whether or not it's moral to execute people who are super criminals. We don't know who did it ever. Not nearly enough to ever think that you can execute people. That's my stance on that. It's like, nope. The moment people are getting off death row based on DNA evidence because the stuff was too shaky, I'm like, nope, I can't trust the system, can't trust all the people involved, can't trust them with their implicit biases, their selective use of evidence, and just like lazy policing and so on. There's too many flaws there. Do not trust that system to be objective and proven and so on. And I think in general, I think DNA is a iffy place to question things maybe, but in general, I think that the world is a little too prone to believing in objective proof from tests even existing. Speaking as somebody who was denied an ADHD diagnosis because I did a QuickTime event on a computer, no brain scan, no battery of tests, just like the one 10-minute QuickTime event sequence on a computer where I hit spacebar when certain shapes came up, and they're like, haha, we've objectively proven you don't have ADHD. even though I'm somebody who plays video games for a living and was thinking about the game design aspect of the quick time event while I was doing it, and was being entertained by it on that level and so on, seems like a flawed test to say that you've objectively proven that I don't have ADHD and will never look into any outside evidence. Because, well, some of you that have watched for a while might have picked up on some signs. Some of you that have watched this series might have picked up on some signs. I'm just saying, I can't prove it, but I don't think they proved it either. And so I'm really annoyed by the idea of objective tests in general, or objective conclusions being permanent and immovable, because almost every time it's almost always just more complicated than that. There's just so many things that we do that just are way less provable than we want them to be, and a lot of answers are way less final than we want them to be. One of my favorite quotes ever, I think it was from the Vlogbrothers, I don't remember if it was John or Hank Green though, is just, "The truth resists simplicity." Which is an irritatingly nuanced statement, but it's specifically the fact that it even says the truth resists simplicity. Like, it acknowledges that there can be simple answers, things can be straightforward sometimes, but like reality just resists the idea of giving you simple answers with final solutions. That's too close to a fucked up existing historical thing. Don't ignore that. Simple answers, simple solutions. We want closure. We want finality and closure all the time about everything, and that's almost never actually real. It just almost never happens. And when you think it happened, usually it's people just being lazy. Like Monica Lewinsky and just calling her a slut and not caring about what was happening to her, or the story about the McDonald's coffee incident where somebody got horrifically scarred and permanently disfigured and had a life-altering incident because of insanely hot coffee, and had no option but to try to sue in order to just have any kind of help with her medical stuff because she couldn't deal with her disfiguring medical treatment problems there. And that was the corner she was backed into. And people just late night comedy shows have permanently ruined American psyche because they turn every news article into like a lazy joke. Just super lazy, usually misogynist jokes that don't care about reality or nuance, and because they get you laughing about it, people never think about it again, and it gets cemented into the public consciousness as a joke. And then people never think about it again. And then some YouTuber will unpack it 20 years later, and people will be like, "Oh fuck, I never thought about that. I just kind of accepted the thought-terminating cliche for like 20 years." And if you're lucky, that's if you're lucky. Most people just never change their minds about anything once it gets cemented in their brain. So I love the quote, "The truth resists simplicity," because it's just don't accept easy answers ever about anything, because there's just so much shit that gets hurt when people default to that idea. Anyway, big rant about that stuff. So this got messy. Next episode we'll see if we can fucking unpack it, I guess. Yeah, this might be the intro to unpacking 5Ps too. I think 5Ps is a fucking fraud. All right, we'll find out.